Hello, everyone. Here I am with one of our wonderful teachers, Mary Davis. Mary, great to meet you. And please just introduce yourself.
So nice to meet you too. I'm so glad to be a part of Quilt 2024.
Hmm.
My name's Mary Davis, and I run merry-go-round quilts. Um, I'm not sure what else you want. I mean, I live in Colorado. It's freezing cold, but
Oh no.
um,
I know it's a good time of year for quilters because we're all very keen to have the quilts on our laps to be sewing down the binding and stuff like
right.
that. That's nice to struggle at. We're recording this at the end of November, and of course, it'll be beginning of January when these go live. I guess, do you get a lot of snow where you are?
um, yeah. I mean, the mountains get the majority of the snow, of
Mm,
course. And I'm a good, I don't know, 40 minutes, 30 minutes from the mountains.
mm.
So we don't get the snow as bad down here. It always dumps up there. They'll get like
Yeah, I
feet,
can
and then
imagine.
we'll get a few inches. So it
I
did snow last week.
I'm in California in Oakland, and I just will never get used to bright sunshine and palm trees on Christmas Day. It's just a constant source of amazement to me.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
anyway, let's get into it. So tell us, when did you start quilting? How were you introduced to it?
Um, well, I've always been a sewer. I started out as a garment sewer, and I did that for years and years, and I loved it, and I still kind of miss it. But I felt like I had to choose one because each hobby takes up a lot of time. And
Mm,
once I discovered quilting, I decided, oh my God, I love this so much. I kind of put the garment making on the wayside. But my mom started quilting and she was hand quilting. She was just kind of teaching herself from books, and I wasn't really into quilting at that time. I was doing the garments, but I always liked trying new things and new crafts. And when I saw her making it, I thought, oh my God, that is so cool. I have got to try it, you know? And so I went out and I just, taught myself, bought a book at a local fabric store. And it was to make a sampler. And
mhm.
so I made a sampler wall hanging, and it had I didn't realize it at the time, but looking back, that sampler had all the different techniques that you could do. It had, sewing curves, sewing Y seams, applique, and all this stuff, which, to me at that time, it was just something fun. So I wasn't even really thinking twice about it, which is kind of funny because now I'm like, ooh, Y seams? No, which is kind of silly.
Absolutely. Well, I guess it's one of the things about being a beginner is you don't know what are the really hard, awkward things
Mm-hmm.
necessarily. You just know that you don't know how to do anything. So
Yeah.
yeah, maybe
Yeah.
that's a bonus. And so do you still have the wall hanging? Is it?
I do. I should
Uh,
have pulled it out. When I moved into this house, um, I'm not sure where I put it, but I always had it in my living room. And it's just kind of funny because my daughter, she's 27 now, but ever since she was little, because I'd had that before she was born.
mm.
And um, I didn't have it on my wall for a long, long time. And then when I pulled it out again, she's like, oh, I always remember staring at that when I was a little kid. And I always liked this block and that block, so it's just kind of a fun thing. But yeah, I still have it, but I just kind of thought, oh, let's put something different on the wall now.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, tell us about the quilt that we can see behind you there with the triangles.
Oh, this is just a free pattern that I did for Baby Lock. I'm an ambassador for them, and
Mm.
I do free patterns for their website. And this is on their website. I think it's called Triangle Pieced Strip Piece Triangle or something like that. But it's a free pattern on the Baby Lock website. Real
Well,
simple jelly roll strips.
it's very effective though, isn't it? It's lovely, it makes a
Yes.
lovely design. I'll make sure I link to it from the interview notes as well. So when did quilting become a business for you?
Um, well, I think way, way back when I first started, I've always been looking for ways to make money. I was always a single parent, and I was always looking, oh, I can make this craft and sell it, or that craft. And when I started doing the quilts, I thought, oh, maybe I could sell these. I wasn't even good. I don't know what I was thinking. You know, it's like my first year. It's like, let's go to a craft show and sell these baby quilts, which I did not sell a single one of them. And that was like when I kind of started thinking about it. And then I had a little bit of a hiatus, and I didn't quilt for quite a few years. And then, except for like special type occasions. And then I don't think I really got started with merry-go-round quilts until 2020. And I had taken a pattern writing class. And I think that kind of catapulted me in the direction of what was possible with a quilt business. And so from there, I just kind of branched off into the business.
Amazing. And then you mentioned that you're a Baby Lock ambassador as well. Like, how did
that? I was just looking at different sewing machine companies because I wanted to be an ambassador. I didn't really know what was involved back then. I just thought, ooh, I see other people doing it, so I'm gonna do it. It'll be fun. I can sew. I mean, because that's what I want to do, is I want to sew. So I'll just be sewing on their machine and promoting their machine. So I just reached out to them. There wasn't really an application. I just was looking at their website and reached out and said, hey, I'd like to be an ambassador for your company. What do you say? And then we just went back and forth, and here I am. I'm on my second year. It'll be my third year starting. No, this starts my third year in October of this year. Yeah.
Gosh, amazing. And so what does it mean to be an ambassador for a company? Because I've seen people doing it, and I'm like, they're an ambassador. And that's that. So what does
I like it. It does take up a little bit of time, but you're basically already sewing. So the good thing about it is you could just take projects that you're already sewing, and you're sewing on their machine. So you're promoting their product while you're sewing your stuff. For me, for Baby Lock in particular, each person's contracts are different, but I have obligations that I have to fulfill with, providing some quilt patterns for them to house on their website, and then promotion, blog posts, things like that to help promote. And then in exchange, they also promote me when I have, like, say, this quilt back here on the wall. They'll put it on their page and their social media, and it still links to me as the designer of the pattern. So it helps me get exposure also.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, because you imagine that it's a mutually beneficial thing, and it has benefits on both sides, but I've never known someone that actually was one of these people. And so it's always fascinating to find out that, like, how these things work.
And then I forgot, the bonus is the free stuff, of course.
Of course, right. So you must have a very nice sewing machine, I imagine.
Yeah, I have a sewing machine and I have a quilting machine. I was also an ambassador for Ortho Thread for a while. And then with that, you get like a bunch of free thread, and whatever thread you need for any projects throughout your term of your contract, you could just get. So that was nice. Being an ambassador for two companies was a little too much. So one is just right for me. Other people might, I work full time and do the quilt business, so I can only handle so much.
Oh my goodness. So you're working full time as well as the quilt business?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Because from the way the business is, I assumed that was your full-time thing, because
I wish.
You're doing so much. Oh my goodness. How do you find time for all of this?
Oh gosh, I'm not the most organized person when it comes to my business. I know that there's people that, they have their planners and their calendars, and everything is just so, and I tend to somewhat fly by the seat of my pants. I write things down, but I'm not really keeping a calendar. I have like a notebook, and but I think I just, I have my list of my to-dos like for the week. And then I know that when I'm home, I do work from home a couple of days a week. So during like my lunch hour and before work, I can sew. I usually am on my computer, unfortunately, longer after I get home from work. Then I'm on the computer a lot of times until like 8 or 9 at night, trying to, there's just like so much to do.
Yeah.
So my goal is, of course, to be able to do the quilting business full time at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I know, yeah, there's a lot of us that have various different things that we're doing
Yeah.
to balance things out and bring in the money. But yes,
Yeah.
let's hope it won't be much longer before you can do that. Um, in the meantime, I mean, you one of the reasons I assumed you were doing it full time is because you've also done your own summit recently, the
Yes.
Free Motion Quilting Summit. So tell me
Yes.
about that. Like what was it like? How did it go? And what your
Yeah. Yeah. So I did a free motion quilting summit, and I was inspired by, I was on a podcast and I was listening to a person who had done a summit. And I thought, huh, that sounds like a cool idea. I think that's something that I'd like to try.
Mm.
And so, like you, I dove in head first and started doing like a lot of research, trying to figure out how to run a summit, listening to a lot of podcasts, a lot of Google searches, and all that stuff. But at any rate, so I
Oh,
did a free motion quilting summit. I had 14 instructors each teach a 10-minute or a little bit longer free motion quilting video of a design or a technique. And then I had speakers that were an upgrade that did 30-minute presentations with Q&A at the end. So I had 7 speakers for a live event that was for one day. So yeah, it was I don't even know what the word, it was a big undertaking.
it sounds intense.
And
Yeah.
and having done it the first time, I realized that there's a lot of things that I need to change that I learned um, from the next time. I didn't have the right computer software set up, and I had my computer, the website crashed
Oh,
because too
because it
many
was so
people were coming
popular.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so things that I didn't think of, that next time around, I will be much more prepared for things like that. So it'll
Absolutely.
run
I
smoothly.
know. I've read and heard stories about this, which is why, I've made expensive software decisions with this one, but it will
Yeah.
be that, fingers crossed, nothing like
It's
that will
so
happen.
worth it. Yeah, it's worth it to have, the good computer platforms, the software platforms that you need. And it's, you don't want to cut corners is what I would say, because I tried to get
Yeah.
by. And I also had someone who was helping me with the website who kind of disappeared on me.
Oh,
So that put, so it was, next time around, I feel like I want to learn more of how things run myself so I can be more in control and not rely on other people to get things done.
yes, yes. No, I can totally empathize with that. But also, I mean, having the live element as well on the day,
Mhm.
that's something that I've deliberately avoided with this because it just adds so much complexity and additional coordination and just,
Oh,
I mean, talk about herding cats. But yeah, it's so I just admire that you did that.
yeah,
And is there going to be another one in the future?
most definitely. I'm planning for my next summit to be in August of 2024.
Mhm.
Um, and it's going to be bigger and it's going to be way better. Um, Response was good. So I'm really looking forward to, and people were saying, oh, you got to do this again. So that, that makes you feel good when um, it's receptive and people are enjoying what you're putting out there. So I'm looking forward to doing the next one.
Awesome. Okay, well, I'm going to be looking out for details of that. And I'm sure if people, I mean, all your information is on your teacher page, and if people follow you on social media,
Yep,
they'll be able to get a notification of that. But
definitely.
let's talk about what you're doing in January, and your workshop. So tell us about your workshop.
Um, oh, I'm like having a blank.
Sorry,
So
subject too quickly. The workshop for Quilt 2024. Yes.
so since I really enjoy free motion quilting, that's my very favorite part of the whole quilting process. So I'm going to be teaching how to make a design called ribbon candy, a free motion quilting design, but I'm also going to be teaching how to do that in 3 different ways. One of the things I like about free motion quilting is that there are so many variations, and it's just open to your own interpretation of how you want to do your designs. You're not stuck in a bottle and saying, oh, you can only do it this way. That's not true. There's so many different things that you can do, and with free motion quilting. So, and ribbon candy is one of my favorite designs that I like to work with. So I thought it would be fun to show the basic design, and then I will show 2 other designs off of that. One is a heart pattern off of the free motion ribbon candy, and the other is kind of a little curly kind of design.
Oh,
So
adorable
it's
though.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, good designs for borders or small spaces. Not even really small. Sometimes people can put them in, you can put them in bigger spaces and just make it gigantic. So
Wonderful. And these are ones that people can do on their home machines. They don't need long arms or special equipment.
right. You can do this on your home sewing machine. I'll be demonstrating on a sit down quilting machine, which is basically a long arm machine that is on a stationary table.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not moving the machine, I'm just moving my quilt underneath the needle, just like I would be if I were using a domestic machine.
Right. And this is a baby lock machine, presumably, that
Yes.
using,
Yeah.
because I've seen them at shows and in stores. Um,
Mm-hmm.
how, I don't know if it's possible to compare the two. Like, have you worked on a long arm as well? Because I'm just wondering, like, it feels like you go from like a regular machine to a sit down machine to a long arm. Is it? But is it
It,
that?
it it
Oh,
doesn't have to be that transition. You can go from a sewing machine directly to a long arm
oh
on a
yeah.
frame. Yeah. So the difference is with my sit down quilting machine, like I say, it looks exactly like a long arm machine, except for it's in a stationary table. And the long arms that are on the frame, which people typically think of when you say long arm, are the ones that are on the frame, and they have handlebars. So you have to hold them and then guide the machine over your quilt top into the design that you're trying to make. As where if you're working on a sit down machine or a domestic, you're actually using your hands and pushing
Hmm.
the quilt around. So that's the only difference. Either you're using handlebars on the long arm, or you're using your hands.
Yes. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's I don't have the room myself or the money to invest in a more elaborate setup, but it is fun trying these things out at shows and
Yeah.
exhibits and so on. And yeah, there's just so many different varieties of things. So
Yeah.
how fabulous to have one of those though, but also that this workshop will work on domestic machine as well. Have
Definitely.
there been people or artists that have inspired you as you've developed, your pattern design style and your own work?
Mm-hmm. Um, I think there are so many people that I admire their work, and I love watching them do their free motion quilting and their other thread embroidery and free motion embroidery and stuff like that. But I would have to say my very favorite is Angela Walters. That was the person that I found when I first started free motion quilting. I found her videos and I'm like, oh, she's kind of funny and she makes it fun,
Mhm.
and she makes it so simple. And I'm like, oh, anybody could do it. So she was one of my inspirations. And I think there are some, I mean, gosh, there's just so many. I don't think I could even, a lot of people that I had in my summit that were the instructors were so talented. And it was just fun having them show some different videos and their techniques during the summit. Um, but yeah, one of the things that I really like doing now is yarn couching, which I discovered from Beth Ann Whitehaber, I think is her name.
Uh-huh.
I can't think of her Instagram handle off, but yeah, I
Yeah,
took
I'll look it up and put it in the interview notes. But tell us about yarn
oh,
couching. What does that involve?
darn it, I wish I would have brought,
Oh, don't
I'm sitting
worry.
in my sewing room, so I don't have examples. But yarn couching is just taking yarn and stitching it onto your fabric in different designs.
Okay,
It
yeah.
just requires a different kind of quilting foot attachment. And
So do you
yeah, all
kind
your,
of zag over it?
yeah, not
Oh,
zigzag. You're going in a straight line. You can zigzag, I guess you could, but I'm on my long arm, so it only does straight,
oh, right.
straight stitching.
So you're actually, it's almost like you've got a piece of wool or something, or yarn,
Mhm.
knitting yarn, and you're sewing it down onto
Yep,
the, oh, interesting.
exactly. And
Okay.
it's cool because the quilting foot is a little tiny circle,
Mhm.
like a closed in circle. So you end up bringing the yarn up through that circle. So
Oh,
it, the yarn will go, it's, you could do free motion quilting of any kind, and the yarn just goes under the needle wherever you're moving your machine like you would normally with free motion quilting. um, this needle is stitching down wherever you're stitching, wherever you're guiding it, so you're just stitching the yarn down in whatever shape. And so I've been,
yeah, tell us, how have you been using that?
I just do it for fun. I've made like, I just do practice pieces. I've made another fun um, yarn couch tote tote bag for Baby Lock that's also on their website that I thought turned out really, really cool. But I mean, the possibilities are endless. Whatever you can draw, you can yarn couch it,
I
basically.
can, yeah, because I was just talking to another teacher yesterday, Tracy Browning, and her sister has developed a specific technique with coloring on quilts and kind of using the because Tracy's a free motion quilter herself, and so using the outline of the free motion stuff and the embroidered to and coloring it in, and I can imagine that working really well with this as well.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
can you use all sorts of different yarns? Like, because there's some real novelty ones that are,
Yeah, I've only used the regular yarn. I just get the cheap stuff. I don't get anything
Mm,
expensive. That's one thing about me. I'm not into expensive this and that. Just regular old yarn will do.
amazing.
And
Yeah, that's fascinating because I
yeah,
hadn't thought about, I've only ever thought about like almost like sewing bias binding down onto
yeah,
a quilt, which I know
yeah.
Joe and others have promoted a lot.
Mhm.
But that kind of couching, brains.
Yeah.
Okay.
Super fun. Just
Yeah.
Google yarn couching and see what you come up on free motion yarn couching or whatever. I don't know. But yeah, I had seen a pillow at Walmart of all places, and I'm like, oh, that is so cool. And it was yarn couching. And I'm like, huh. So I went home and I just started drawing some designs out myself. And that's how I came up with the design for the tote bag that I made for Baby Lock. Was I just drew some stems and flowers on a piece of paper, and then I transferred it onto my fabric and with a erasable marker and
I know where
went
you,
to town.
yeah, God, it's amazing. So inspiration striking at Walmart now as
Yeah.
well as everywhere else. I love that. That's perfect. How would you describe your own style? Because you sell patterns in your store. And how would you describe that?
Um, I like to, a lot of people are like, oh, you're a modern quilter or you're a traditional quilter. I don't know. I love traditional patterns. I just do. I see a lot of people who do modern stuff and I like. some of their stuff, but I really like the traditional at heart, just your straight, just the blocks that your grandmother invented or made and stuff like that. But um, I think sometimes it's a kind of a traditional with a little bit of a modern twist, but I don't stray too far into the modern zone. I'm not a art quilter.
And I think
Um,
the line between the two can be quite
yeah,
porous sometimes as well. Because, like, for instance, the triangle quilt you've got behind you, if you used solids, that would basically be a modern quilt at that
true.
point, even though it's a fairly traditional half square triangle. And so, yeah, there's not a huge difference between the two. And I think,
Yeah,
yeah, sometimes there's a lot of people that don't fit into like a category. They are a
yeah,
quilter, an artist,
right.
rather
Yeah,
than one or the other.
yeah. And I love prints. I love florals. So that kind of takes, I mean, yeah, you could do modern with florals, but mostly modern is with solids, like you say.
Mm,
But
yeah.
I don't
I
know.
know there's a big debate ongoing about whether batiks can be used in modern quilts and whether that's allowed or whether they're too not modern and traditional. So yeah,
Yeah.
let's not
Why
get.
the rules?
I know, and who's making the rules as well? It's like who? It's like the
Quilt police that we don't see?
I know. I always think that apparently, this is silly, but apparently there's some society that controls what emojis go onto phones and things like that, so that
Oh,
there's a standard set across all operating devices. And I'm always thinking, like, who's on this committee? Like, who just because apparently, well, anyway, I won't go into that, but it just fascinates me the whole politics of this because
yeah.
the thing
Yeah.
I was going to say is that because apparently Ford lobbied very heavily when there was a truck emoji being created that it needed to be red.
Oh
So
my
that was
gosh.
their thing, that they were lobbying whoever these people are to make it a red truck.
Oh, wow.
Before, I know it's
Huh.
we think that sometimes that quilting is a niche, and there's people that are much more niche orientated. Like imagine the
Yeah.
red truck niche. Anyway, um, before I let you go, I just wanted to talk quickly, like tell me about some highlights from having your business and some achievements that you're particularly proud of. Because I imagine the Free Motion Quilting Summit was a highlight for this year.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Um, I think overall as a whole, the just being in the quilting community and meeting all these new people and all these talented quilters. And then I know you had mentioned I had my membership where I featured quilt pattern designers of color.
Yeah.
And that was so awesome to get to meet all these people and all these quilters who I thought were, untouchable. It's like, oh God, no, they're so popular. No, they're it's like they're not a real person. You think, oh, they're just this somebody up on this high pedestal that is so different from you and me, but they are actually not. They are regular Joes, just like everybody else that just have a love for quilting and they like sharing their work. And so doing the quilt pattern designers of color really helped me to kind of build a name for myself and to promote all these talented designers that a lot of that weren't necessarily mainstream for everybody. Unless you're on Instagram, I feel like there's a lot of people who aren't going to know who you are because there's a lot of people who aren't on Instagram.
Yeah.
So it was fun finding all these different quilters of color and bringing them to the forefront.
Yes, because I think at least one of them, Shankari Pataji, who I'll be talking to very soon. She's one of the people that was involved, and she's one of the teachers at Quilt24 as well.
Yeah.
And I know that the membership that you've had will be ending by the time this interview goes live. But is this work that you're planning to continue next year and beyond?
I'm hoping to still feature quilt pattern designers or quilters of color on my social media. And I've even been toying with the idea of doing some kind of free interviews, like big Zoom calls, doing free live Q&As with designers that way.
Oh yeah.
So I've got ideas. I just I just need to hone in because I get too many ideas and then I'm like inundated with my thoughts.
I know how that is. Yes. And yeah, I'm like, whoa, this doesn't need to be done straight away. This could, you just
Yeah.
sit down and like plan when you're going to do it. Don't do all the things. I think it's a bit like quilting projects. We've never,
Mm-hmm.
or at least I've never just got one on the go. There's
Oh,
always like 12.
yeah, exactly.
Um, well, look, it's been so fun to talk to you. Thank you so much. Really fascinating. And there's so many things I'm going to be linking to in the interview notes for people to find out more about. As I said earlier, all your information is on your teacher page, so people
Yeah.
can find you, find your designs, and follow you on social as well. But
Mm-hmm.
I just want to thank you for your time. It's been a really great conversation.
Thank you. So glad to be here. And thanks for having this summit and for trying to have such a diverse group of the quilters who were involved. Because I was excited because I'm looking at it. I'm not even doing, I'm going to stop my membership, but I'm like, oh, ooh, I got to reach out to that person and I got to reach out to that person. So it opened up some doors for me too. So I'm like selfishly glad for that.
Oh, thank you. That's really good to hear. Yeah, I'm all about representing the true diversity of the quilting community. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's really good to hear. Well, thank you.
Yeah. Nice. You're welcome. And thanks for having me.
Thanks.